You start a package upgrade over SSH from a hotel Wi-Fi network. The command goes quiet for 10 minutes. You press enter, nothing happens. Then the terminal spits out broken pipe, or just sits there pretending it is alive. Was the server down? Usually no. The NAT gateway or firewall forgot your idle TCP flow. Your SSH client and server still had keys, users, and permissions correct, but the network state between them expired. Today we fix the boring failure. How to SSH keep connection alive without pretending Keepalives are a job control system. There are 3 separate problems people mix together. First, middle boxes track connections in tables. If an SSH session sends no packets for long enough, the NAT or firewall may delete that entry. Second, each side of OpenSSH can send application-level Keepalive messages to prove the peer is still reachable. Third, your long-running job is a process problem, not a network problem. Keepalives can keep an idle flow from looking dead, and they can detect a dead path faster. They cannot preserve your shell state after your laptop sleeps or your Wi-Fi changes networks. For that, use tmux or screen on the server. ServerAliveInterval is a client-side OpenSSH setting. If the client has received no data from the server for that many seconds, it sends an SSH protocol Keepalive request inside the encrypted session. Any real traffic also counts, so active output from a command resets the timer naturally. ServerAliveCountMax controls how many unanswered probes the client tolerates before it disconnects. With interval 15 and count 2, a dead path is usually noticed in roughly 30 to 45 seconds, depending on timing. This is different from TCP Keepalive, which uses operating system TCP probes. Those are often much slower by default and are not the knob I reach for first. Put these lines in your client file, usually .ssh/config in your home directory. The directory should be mode 700, and the config file should be mode 600. Host star means this applies to every destination unless a later, more specific host block overrides it. ServerAliveInterval 15 says, after 15 quiet seconds, ask the server if it is still there. ServerAliveCountMax 2 says, after 2 unanswered ServerAlive messages, give up instead of hanging forever. ConnectTimeout 5 is not a Keepalive. It controls the initial TCP and SSH connection attempt. It is excellent for scripts, monitoring, and automation where a dead host should fail quickly. Here is the pattern I use for an administrator laptop connecting through consumer routers, VPNs, and cloud firewalls. On the laptop, set ServerAliveInterval 15 and ServerAliveCountMax 2. Now, quiet interactive sessions emit small encrypted SSH messages often enough that most NAT tables keep the flow. On shared servers, set a conservative server policy if you want dead clients cleaned up. ClientAliveInterval 60 and ClientAliveCountMax 3 in /etc/ssh/sshd config. Then test with sudo sshd-t and reload the daemon. Before upgrades, migrations, or log tailing that matters, start tmux mu-s work. If the network drops anyway, reconnect and attach to that session. The first mistake is setting Keepalives to 1 second everywhere. That creates pointless background traffic and makes large fleets noisier for no real gain. 15 seconds on an unreliable client path is reasonable. 60 seconds server-side is common. The second mistake is treating Keepalives as security. They are availability and cleanup controls, not authentication controls. The third mistake is editing sshd config and reloading blind. Always keep an existing root or sudo SSH session open. Run sudo sshd-t, then reload. Service names differ. Many Red Hat systems use SSHD. Many Debian and Ubuntu systems use SSH. Finally, do not run database migrations in a naked SSH shell. This topic sits between client configuration and operational safety. Earlier in the series, we used .ssh/config to make connections predictable. Keepalives are one more per host or global policy in that same file. On the server side, ClientAlive settings belong with login policy, idle cleanup, and audit expectations. For automation, ConnectTimeout pairs with batch mode, host key policy, and clear exit code handling. For human operations, tmux or screen is the neighbor topic. It separates the lifetime of your work from the lifetime of your network connection. That separation is what experienced administrators rely on during maintenance windows. Try this only against a machine you administer. On your workstation, create or fix the .ssh directory, touch the config file, and set permissions as shown. Add the host star block from today's config. Connect to your test VM with SSH-VV so you can watch debug output. Leave the session idle for a minute, then run a simple command. You will not always see a neat Keepalive line because debug wording varies by OpenSSH version and traffic timing, but the session should stay responsive across idle periods. Then, start tmux new-s Keepalive, run sleep 300, disconnect, reconnect, and attach again. 3 beats to remember. 1. NAT and firewall state tables expire idle flows, so client-side ServerAliveInterval 15 with ServerAliveCountMax 2 is a practical default for unreliable paths. 2. ClientAliveInterval and ClientAliveCountMax are server-side cleanup tools. Use them deliberately, test sshd config, and reload safely. 3. Keepalives help connections, but tmux or screen saves work. Long jobs belong inside a server-side multiplexer before you start them. This is episode 26 of SSH Mastery, a daily Zero to Expert series for administration and defense. New SSH episode every day on this channel, plus the daily ranked CVE brief for what needs your attention now.